Hey guys, it's Jade from Bedtime Bookworm, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to do the 2018 reading survey. So this reading survey is kind of like a tag. It's made every year by a book blogger, Jamie from Perpetual Page-Turner, and this is the 9th year that she's created the survey. The survey actually has two different parts. It has a part all about the books that you read in 2018, and then a part that's about your book blog or whatever platform you use. I'm only going to be answering the questions related to the books that I read. There are 30 of them, so it's going to be sort of rapid fire style. I'm going to try not to talk too much about each answer. I like doing this survey because it gives me a chance to talk about some books that aren't going to show up in some of my other year wrap-up videos. Like I said, there are 30 questions, so let's get started. The first question is best book you read in 2018. The next video that I'm going to be posting is actually going to be all of my 5-star reads from 2018. So this question will serve as a sneak peek into that list. It was really hard to pick, but I think I'm going to go with The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. Hopefully I'm not picking this book just because it was a recent read. It hasn't really been long enough to see if my feelings about it are going to die down at all, but I don't think so. I really love the way that this one ended, and I was thoroughly entertained through the whole book, so my #1 spot is going to have to go to that one. The next question is book you were excited about and thought you were going to love but didn't. Again, I will be having a surprising and disappointing books video coming up, so that will contain more books that were disappointing. But I think the book that I was most disappointed with was Unbury Carol by Josh Malerman. In 2017, Bird Box by Josh Malerman was one of my favorite books, so I had really high hopes going into Unbury Carol because the premise sounded fascinating. But Unbury Carol was very different from Bird Box, and I really didn't like it. Next is most surprising in a good or bad way book that you read. For this, I'm gonna go with The Book of M by Peng Shepherd. This is a dystopian that had a little bit of a magical realism feel to it. It was a debut from an author that I'd never heard of, so the fact that I even enjoyed it would have been a surprise. But on top of that, this book had a very thought-provoking ending that kept me thinking about it for weeks and weeks, and I still think about it all the time. Book that you push the most people to read. I'm really not that much of a book pusher, I feel like, but I'd probably just go with the Wheel of Time series in general. I have talked nonstop about that series all of last year. Granted, I was participating or co-hosting the Readalong, the Wheel of Time Readalong, so that was part of it. But I definitely have talked about that series the most on my channel over the last year. Whether or not people actually picked up the Wheel of Time series because I talked about it, I have no idea. Actually, if you read any books last year because you heard me talk about them, I would love to know that in the comment section. The next question is best series and sequel and series ender that you read in 2018. I started 9 different series in 2018. I think the best series starter that I read last year was Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, and then the best sequel that I read would go to The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, and the best series ender is kind of a tough one, but I'm going to go with The Crimson Crown by Cinda Williams-Chima, which is the last book in the Shattered Realm series. Next question is favorite new author you discovered in 2018. I typically won't say that an author is a favorite unless I've read at least 2 books from them. So I was pulling from a limited pool of authors for this answer, but it's definitely Celeste Ng. I read both Little Fires Everywhere as well as Everything You Never Told Me in 2018, and I loved both of them. Best book from a genre you don't typically read or was outside of your comfort zone. For this one, I'm gonna go with The Sea of Tranquility by Katja Millay. This is a YA contemporary romance, and it was definitely outside of my comfort zone, but I really enjoyed it. Most action-packed, thrilling, unputdownable book of the year. And this one, hands down, is going to go to Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This book was so thrilling and was so hard to put down, and it was just like one thing after another. So many things happened, and it was mind-blowing. I read that book in about 2 sittings, which is very unusual for me. I'm not really a one or two sitting type of reader, but it was just so good and I was constantly on the edge of my seat wanting to know what was going to happen next. Definitely the most thrilling book I read all year. Book you read in 2018 that you would be most likely to reread in 2019. I'm really not much of a rereader, so I don't have an answer for this. I really don't think I'm going to reread any books in 2019 that I read last year. Favorite cover of a book you read in 2018. I think this one is going to go to The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kiersten White. This cover is so cool looking, and I love how the word Frankenstein is like written in stitches. I do have a physical arc of this, and in my copy, the pink is like shimmery, and I think it's beautiful. Let me grab it. You can see it reflecting the light a little bit, and so I think that is really pretty. Next question is most memorable character of 2018. This question was hard. I definitely read a lot of memorable characters this year, but I'm gonna go with Amy Dunn from Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. If you've seen that movie or if you've read that book, you know Amy is definitely a memorable character. Most beautifully written book of 2018. And for this, I'm definitely gonna go with Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. Laini Taylor just has a magical way of words where everything she writes is beautiful, but still has a lot of meaning to it, and I love her writing style so much. Most thought-provoking or life-changing book of 2018. I definitely don't read a lot of books that are life-changing. That's just not the type of book that I read, but I definitely read a lot of thought-provoking books, but it's really hard just to pick one for this question. Even though I've already said this book for another answer, I think if I'm being honest with myself, the most thought-provoking book I read was The Book of M by Pink Shepherd. That book definitely wasn't perfect, but it was so thought-provoking. It's a book that really stuck with me after I finished reading it. That ending left me thinking about it for days. Book you can't believe you waited until 2018 to read. I think this one will probably go to Mistborn, The Final Empire. I've read some other Brandon Sanderson previously, and I've had his Mistborn series on my TBR for a really long time, and I'm absolutely loving the series, and I can't believe I waited until 2018 to start it. Favorite passage or quote from a book you read in 2018? I don't really collect quotes, so I don't have an answer for that. Shortest and longest book you read in 2018. The longest book that I read was Lord of Chaos by Robert Jordan at 940 pages, and the shortest book I read was Save the Cat by Blake Snyder at 195 pages. Next is book that shocked you the most. I definitely had a number of books that I could use for the answer to this, but I think the book that shocked me the most was The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. OTP of the year, and OTP it stands for One True Pairing. So my favorite relationship that I read in 2018. Well, I could say Hans Alistair and Rhaesa from the Seven Realms series because I read the last book this year. They were my OTP last year, and so I'm going to pick a different couple, and the only other couple that really stood a chance was Laszlo and Sarai from Strange the Dreamer. Next is favorite book you read in 2018 from an author that you've read previously. So I'm not counting rereads, so I'm not going to say any of the Wheel of Time books. These are going to be new to me books from authors that I've read from. And this is really hard. I read a lot of good books this year from authors that I've read from before, but I think I'm going to go with Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Best book you read in 2018 that you read based solely on a recommendation from somebody else. This is a hard one to answer just because most of the books I pick up are ones that I hear about from other people, whether that's other booktube channels or recommendations from other book platforms. I think for this one, I'm going to go with The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. And the person I'm going to say that recommended it to me would be Katie from Girl About Library. She said in one of her videos that this was one of her favorite books and that she wanted to reread it, and so we did a buddy read together. And I ended up absolutely loving this book. Next is newest fictional crush from a book you read in 2018. And I hate to say this book again, but it definitely goes to Laszlo from Strange the Dreamer. The next question is best 2018 debut that you read. And for this, I'm going to say Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. This was a horror debut, and it was so much fun to read. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really well done, and I was surprised to find out that it was a debut. Best world building, most vivid setting that you read this year. I've been trying really hard not to bring up the Wheel of Time during this book survey, but that's definitely got to be my answer for this. The world in The Wheel of Time is just so vivid for me, and the world is so huge and complicated. It's definitely the best world building I've ever read. Book that put a smile on your face or was the most fun to read. And that definitely is Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. All of his stories have like a profound meaning behind them, but at the same time managed to be really funny, and I laughed so hard while reading that book. Next is a book that made you cry or nearly cry in 2018. And as I've said in a lot of my wrap-ups, I cry really easily when it comes to books, so lots of books made me cry in 2018. The book that made me cry the most was probably Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. Next is Hidden Gem of the Year. And for this, I'm gonna go with The Book of M by Pink Shepherd because I think it's a really interesting dystopian that not very many people have talked about. Now that I've read Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, I can say that if you liked Station 11, there's a chance that you're gonna like The Book of M too. They have a really similar feel to them and are both post-apocalyptic stories. Next is The Book That Crushed Your Soul. I had a really hard time coming up with an answer for this. There were a few books that crushed my soul, but a lot of them I've already said in this video. So I finally found a book that I haven't said yet, and I can't believe I haven't said this book yet, and that's going to be Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. That book hurt my heart a little bit at the end, and if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. Most unique book that you read in 2018. And for this one, I'm going to go with World War Z by Max Brooks. This book was unique because there weren't any main characters. I said in my wrap-up of it that it seemed almost like the world was your character. You were following things happening throughout the world during a zombie outbreak from like the beginning to the end. And it's told in a series of interviews, so that makes it really unique too. And then the last question of the book survey is the book that made you the most mad, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't like it, it just made you mad. And for this, I think I'm gonna go with Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I did enjoy this book, but I was definitely let down by it, and not just based on the hype that I heard about it, but based on what I felt like the book was leading up to. And so I was mad that I didn't get the ending that I wanted. I felt like the book was setting me up for something epic at the end, and it totally didn't happen. Okay guys, so that is the end of the reading survey. Let me know if you were surprised by any of my answers down in the comment section. I'm really excited about my next few videos because I'm finally going to be posting my best books of 2018 and my worst books of 2018, as well as my surprising and disappointing and a few other lists that I've put together. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you like bookish content. I post 1 to 2 times a week. That is all I have for now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bookworms, keep reading. Bye. The next question is, next we have book that you pushed on. So yeah, this would be my favorite. So yeah, so this would be my favorite. And for this one, I'm gonna go with. I know some of you are probably wondering. Bye.